Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them, that's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Tidy Cats, here to level up your litter game with their new Performance Plus lineup. Your home is your happy place, your cats, VIPs. So when it comes to the litter box, excellence isn't optional. Choose from products that specialize in max power clumping, low tracking, or odor fighting so advanced, stink won't see it coming. Tidy Cats Performance Plus. Mission mighty, keep it tidy. Shop now at tidycats.com.
And action! Hello and welcome to episode 332 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking, from studio films to indie blockbusters, how to make them, how to get them made, and how not to F up the intro and jump your partner's bit, Giles.
In our very humble opinion, you did it. You got there in the end. This is the Filmmakers Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Today on the show, we have Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves, directors, and the producer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. They are Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley, the two directors, and producer Jeremy Latcham. I wasn't around to record this. I don't know where I was at the time, because you did this a while ago, didn't you, Huw?
I don't think we remember either. No, it's been a little bit, but it's good to see it coming out.
Yeah, this voice you hear now, you have heard him on the podcast before. He is Huw Siddle. He is the man behind our marketing on the podcast, and he has jumped in and hosted before. Being a big D&D fan, when this came up, you literally stuck your hand up straight away and went, me.
I think there was an email that says shotgun co-hosting this one.
Yes, yeah, because I was away. I was like, yeah, definitely, mate, go for it. If you're interested, why not?
I was joined by the magnificent Christian James to cover the filmmaking side of things. You don't realise how big some people are until you kind of go and delve into them deeply, because these are three really big names. Jeremy is one of the early producers of the MCU. He kind of helped put it all together. John and Jonathan were both writers on Spider-Man. They really know how to put together a big, successful film.
They also both directed Game Night as well, which was a huge hit, I think, about 3-4 years ago, starring Jason Bateman. Obviously, if you haven't seen that and you fancy a fantastic comedy, then go watch it. It's brilliant. What will our audience take away from you and CJ's chat with these wonderful gentlemen?
Firstly, we talk about how did the MCU get started, putting all of it together from that team of just 6 people at the start. Then we talked about how you put together a film based on an existing IP, how you tell an interesting story while still being respectful of tens of years of what came before. And then the new rise of the genre film, how Hollywood is now looking into the world of genre for its inspiration.
I can't wait for our audience to hear that. You also talked about the story behind Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves, how it got made, what it was like on set, or what it is like on set of a big budget film, and how you write a film that makes you laugh, cry and cheer in one. And that is the buzz that this film is getting. We haven't seen it because it is out this Friday, the 31st of March. But this film has been getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah, no, it has been getting some really good buzz. I think a lot of people have been pleasantly surprised by this.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's coming up for you on this week's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. We just wanted to do a couple of plugs, a couple of shout outs. Next week's episode, we've got Richard Eyre, the director of Alleluia, the new Judi Dench, Jennifer Saunders starring movie. Myself and Matthew Butler-Hart and Tori Butler-Hart sat down with him and had an amazing chat. You're going to really love that one. And we've also got Florian Zeller coming up, the director of The Sun, Hugh Jackman starring movie. Thank you all so much for listening to last week's The Business of Film Explained with Stephen Follows, myself and Phil Hawkins. People love them. And we get so many comments on those episodes.
Genuine. I mean, I'll freely admit I'm the junior partner when it comes to TFP hosts. They are amazingly informative, Giles. Like, it's really, really useful to have some sort of dedicated resource there that actually walks you through beyond just being behind the camera.
So there you go. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, do go listen to it after you've listened to this. Fascinating. It's called The Business of Film Explained. We've just done the second one. The first one was a couple of months ago. We're going to try and do them every month. That's the plan.
But we have some shout-outs to give for some other films, don't we, Giles?
Yes, we do. In fact, we have our wonderful filmmaking friend, Kelly Holmes, and her film, The Sin Eater. She's doing a crowdfunder for this. It started yesterday. Basically, they've already shot a lot of the film, and they are needing completion funds. They don't need much, but this film looks excellent. Go on to Greenlit and check it out. Link to it will be in the show notes. But it's a story about a desperate young mother as she carries out a forbidden ritual to save the soul of her unbaptized dead baby. But she's tricked into taking on a terrifying supernatural burden. It's a powerful gothic horror short film and it needs help to get over the lines. Also, shout outs to Jo Allett. She was also one of the stars of 3-Day Millionaire, which is available on Netflix now. Do go support. Which is my produced movie. Jason McColgan, Mark Shields, Craig Hayworth and Craig Roberts that filmed. If you're not part of Filmed yet, check it out. It is Film D. Adam Smith, Michael Pierce, and also shout out to Chloe Chudasama. So Chloe is looking for a sponsor for their movie premiere of their short film, their short action sci-fi film, Ascendance. They're holding it at BAFTA. It's a cast and industry screening of the film with networking drinks after. Basically, if anyone wants to chuck a couple of quid in, I imagine they might need a little bit more than that to sponsor this, then please do. So if anyone out there really fancies that, getting a name on a step and repeat board, and really being part of, and to be honest, Chloe and Leroy at Nocturnal Pictures are going places, so you would be part of a really growing filmmaking community there as well. Link to that is in the show notes. It's under sponsor Seeker Ascendance movie, so check that out as well. Like I say, link to all that is in the show notes. So let's get to the episode, shall we? This is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves. But we haven't actually said who it stars. Who stars in this movie, Hugh?
Really got a star-studded cast. This is a proper Hollywood blockbuster. We've got Chris Pine heading it up. We've got Hugh Grant. We've got Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, Reggie Jean Page and Justice Smith, two massively up-and-coming actors right now. So yeah, this cast is amazing. This film is supposed to be amazing, and it's based on Hasbro's Dungeons & Dragons, aka D&D. So, it is out this Friday. Go support. But first of all, listen to this week's episode. Here it is. Sit back, relax, and enjoy their chat.
Hello.
Hello.
We're good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm Jonathan.
I'm John.
That's John. That's Jeremy.
Jeremy.
So if we put this a little further away,
just sit really close together or sit in each other's laps or something, and that would
sounds good.
help.
For an hour, we can.
You know how we
do
made
that.
this movie because we were always.
Is that your technique? For directing together.
Right.
You just
We
like,
like to get cozy.
Full D&D party style. Brief introduction before we launch straight into things. I'm Hugh, the resident person to ask all the D&D question. CJ is the one who is all about the film world. We're going to try and mix up and hopefully ask a few questions that you haven't been asked 25 times
I
already.
love it. I love it. Please.
what is your most common question so far? What have you had the most?
The common question is, what is the future of the movie? In that,
is this
like,
the start of a
will there
franchise?
be sequels? Will there be spin-offs?
Good, we won't do any of that then.
In that case, I think I'll launch straight into it and start off with the one question I've been wanting to ask since we got the invitation to do this, which is, why now for recreating the D&D kind of movie? Because obviously there have been D&D movies before, but they are, let's generously call them cult classics.
Diplomatic podcast.
But D&D and tabletop gaming as a whole has experienced a real resurgence in the last kind of 4 or 5 years with Critical Role, with all of the other kind of streams and actual plays coming out. What made you guys think that now is the time to kind of bring back the D&D movie?
Jeremy?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think that the cultural resurgence of D&D is obviously makes it timely, and I think that there's a real interest in it. I also think that, you know, to be kind to those previous films, I don't think the technology truly was there to kind of make it happen. And I don't just mean the visual effects technology, the CG. I think also the evolution of prosthetic technology, the evolution of what they do over at Legacy, people that build the Iron Man suits and that build Baby Yoda, like they were intricately involved. And so I think the technology's kind of changed. I think also that like the world has changed in so much that like these things that used to be niche and kind of genre and those kind of things have become more mainstream. I think that, you know, 10, 15 years of Marvel has kind of opened up the world to the idea that like the subculture of geekdom is like something that we can all now embrace. And I think so to take the thing that is kind of the grandfather of it all, the Dungeons and Dragons world, this is like the king of all those things of genre, and to take that and make it as a big movie is kind of a brash, crazy move. And that's what makes it fun.
And there's something irresistible as filmmakers to being able to play in such an enormous sandbox, which is what D&D is. It's 50 years of lore, of characters and monsters and places, but without the solidified structure of a novel as you have with Lord of the Rings. It's a constantly evolving and changing thing. And so it just felt natural to want to jump into that, create a story of our own using that world.
What came first? Were you fans first and you chased the project? Or was it more, you know, or did Jeremy have the project and approached you? How did it come together?
So I was first introduced to Dungeons and Dragons when I was a child actor on the set of Freaks and Geeks. There was an episode where my character is playing it. I knew about it, but had never played. And so we put together a campaign with the cast, which, God, I wish we had a video of, because it'd be such a surreal thing to look back at. But I immediately fell in love with it because as someone who loves to tell stories, it is a storyteller's medium. It is the most fun for people who can find the creativity and the stories in kind of any situation. And then I started a campaign before even the pandemic, before we joined the project. And so when it came along, before even Jeremy was involved, it had been sitting at Paramount for quite some time, and then Warner Brothers before that. I told Jonathan, who was also a fan of the game and had played when he was a kid, this is special. This allows us to kind of inject our voice into something that is familiar to some people and entirely new to others, but to really create a world.
And there seemed like an opportunity to take whatever the sensibility is that we've brought to other films to this bigger canvas. It was almost as if we'd been building single family homes for a time, and then two studios came and said, do you want to build a skyscraper? And we saw a unique opportunity to translate that to this bigger world. And to their credit, they let us do that. You know, like, it's a movie that we're so proud of, and I think it'll surprise people because it is this huge world, but it feels like there's access points at every level for people, whether they care about fantasy, whether they know anything about D&D. It doesn't matter, because it's really about relatable, flawed characters getting caught up in an adventure. And that's the best kind of movie.
Yeah. As for me, like I had known these guys from Spider-Man Homecoming, which I produced when I was still at Marvel. And I had read a script of theirs called Bus Driver, which is still, I will say, that is like a movie that should get made someday. It's like this, it's one of my favorite screenplays I've ever read. It's just so damn funny and so warm and full of heart and everything else. And I'd wanted to work with these guys again because we had such a great experience on Spidey together and bringing that together. And I thought they did an incredible job of like establishing the tone and making that John Hughes kind of thing happen, and saying, how do we take that teen comedy genre from the 80s and sensibility wise and make that something that a kid today can relate to. And the crazy thing about the world today is like the teen comedy's gone, right? Like you can't make a teen comedy for theatrical without a big hook and really have it succeed. And so how do you do that? You put it inside of a superhero movie. And I think that this is like similar in that regard, and that this is really like a road trip about a group of people that don't necessarily all see it the same way, and they have to come together, become a family over it. And I think that's a movie that you don't necessarily go make as theatrical unless you can roll it into something big like D&D. And so it really comes down to like taking that character approach and like taking that version of a movie that's about people on an adventure together and putting it in this giant world, this giant canvas. And so to me, that was what was really appealing about this, was like the opportunity to work with these two guys again, because we really had so much fun together.
What was your path? So you were jobbing around, trying all different jobs. How did you, I imagine it's a very long story, but what was the sort of like?
It's actually not that long of a story, but it involves winning a car on The Price is Right, kind of a weird twist.
Wow, okay, excellent. I wasn't expecting that.
I always wanted to work in the movie business. I wanted to be a film producer. That was the only job that I wanted. I never had aspirations to be a director or a writer or an actor. I only wanted to be a producer. I wanted to bring people together and make movies and like kind of make that all happen. And I was an intern one summer at Miramax Dimension back in the day, and they paid me $5 a day for lunch, and it was not very much money. And so I was broke, and my parents said, "You can't go to LA again next summer. You can't have these jobs that don't pay." And so I went on The Price is Right at the end of the summer, and I won a car from Bob Barker. And all of a sudden, I sold it in the newspaper in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a classified ad that said, "Starving student wins car, needs cash," and put it $14,000. I had 14 grand. I was like, I am set for life. This is awesome. It's all worked out. I'm going back to Hollywood. And I was an assistant at a talent agency for a year. I knew I didn't want to do that. And there was a guy leaving the talent agency named David Maisel to go run Marvel. And I became his assistant. And I went to Marvel with him as an assistant. And we raised $500 million from banks to fund Marvel. And there were only 6 people at the company, and there was no one to make the movies.
What would have been in, what were you working on at that time? What was the ground looking like at Marvel around that?
At that time, it was Marvel was making licensed films for Sony and Fox, and they had a producer fee, and they got paid a percentage, and they didn't really have any control or any say or any like ability to make the movies good, which was driving Kevin Feige crazy. Yeah. Because it's like you can only do so much when you don't have any control. And so when this idea came along to fund the studio, all of a sudden there needed to be people to make the films. And Kevin was gracious enough to point at me and say, "You want to make movies, right? You're on Iron Man. I need a movie." And I was 25 when he said that. And my job was to put together Iron Man 1. And it was crazy. I remember showing Kevin a trailer for Zathura that Favreau had directed and saying, "This is pretty cool," and I'm hiring writers to make the first Iron Man, and then I was there for 14 years just making superhero movies, and it was 13-ish years making superhero movies.
And he didn't have gray hair when he
started. I did not have gray hair.
Full head of gray hair.
I was going to say.
I mean, you've given a very humble account of it, but to our listeners, have no doubt that Jeremy is one of the key people behind the early MCU. I mean, you were on the first 2 Iron Mans, you EP'd the first 2 Avengers films, you did Guardians. It must have been a crazy journey that you launched into.
It was the craziest experience you could ever imagine. And obviously, when we were doing it, we had no idea that it would actually connect and actually resonate. We made Iron Man 1 as an independent film for $140 million or something. And it was entirely independently financed. And we had a distribution deal with Paramount. And it was a big, big, big gamble. And if the movie did not succeed, all of the film rights to the Marvel characters were going to go to Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch or one of these banks, was just going to get the film rights. And they were going to be able to sell them to whoever. And it was a huge gamble and was fun because there was no one to tell us no. There wasn't a studio. No one knew what to do. And so it was like it was the greatest film school ever. And so I feel like as a producer, I got to learn so much in that early phases of Marvel. I was there, through Spider-Man Homecoming. And when you were at Marvel, you were working on all the films, intimately involved in each other's movies. And there's this real creative team that Kevin builds. Now it's like my hope is to be building the new things, to be building the new worlds that we get to inhabit. And to make sure that the culture does not just become a monoculture of.
And to Jeremy's credit, I mean, he really is a filmmaker. I mean, very often in this business, when you work with the producer, you wonder what the hell it is they do. I mean, we worked with so many, and some of them great, some of them not so great. But what sets Jeremy apart from anyone else I've really worked with in this industry in a producerial capacity is he gets his hands dirty. He will take on any title, really, and believes so much in the work that we're doing that I always felt his unfiltered support, and which was absolutely vital in this process, because what we were building was so huge, so big, with so many setbacks and potential obstacles and ways for the thing to just fall apart entirely, that his exuberance and optimism, and also eye for what makes these movies work for general audiences, I think is entirely a testament to his own capabilities. And that's why after we worked with him on Spider-Man Homecoming, we said, we got to work with Jeremy again. He's unlike anyone else we've ever worked with. He really does bring our dreams to life.
It's getting embarrassing.
I could literally talk for 2 hours about how much I love you.
I'll know that you were so exuberant there, you nearly knocked the lamp in the background of our recording over. Let's touch on that general audience thing you mentioned there, John, though, which is obviously D&D is a very, very long-lasting world. It's got a lot of dedicated fans across multiple generations. How do you guys go about creating that so it's still an appealing audience for everybody while still being distinctly D&D?
I'll tell you how you don't do it is to break all the rules and make it to betray what it is that makes D&D special. I think there is a way to make something appealing to people that aren't familiar with it without losing the DNA of D&D, and that was something that was the inherent challenge. And I think ultimately it starts with making a good movie.
That's sort of the approach we took to our Spider-Man movie. There's a tendency, I think, as a writer to get caught up in the size and scope and the sort of significance of the movie you're making. What we tried to do is not let that color our approach to it. We approached it like we would any of our movies. What's the way in for the audience? What are we rooting for? Who do we care about? And then on top of that, there's a lot of scope and a lot of monsters and a lot of, set pieces to this. But really, it starts with the core of it. And for us, it was these characters.
Yeah, if you don't care about the characters, you don't care about the movie. And there has to be something relatable about each and every one of them in their own way. And so even our villain, we never want to have a mustache twirly villain who you can never sink your teeth into or understand their intentions. So the best villain in our minds is someone where you totally understand why they're doing what they're doing and can sort of see a little bit of yourself in them. And that to me is what really makes it more complicated, but not confusing.
So you kind of wanted to get that. You wanted to still make sure it had some of the mechanics and everything that D&D has inherent to it without being completely like, what on earth is this? Somebody has to go explain this mechanic of D&D and suddenly great character and such.
It could be 2 hours of exposition if we were doing our jobs wrong. I mean, we really do adhere to the magic and the creatures and the locations without bogging it down with the minutia.
You touched as well on the kind of the set pieces and the effects and everything. I mean, this obviously it's an effects heavy movie, and that must have been quite an interesting filming experience.
We made a decision early on that we didn't want this to just live in the blue screen world, that it had to have as much substance and reality as we possibly could, hearkening back to the movies we loved from the 80s, the never-ending stories and that kind of thing, because you felt like there was something there. And now that we have the technology to make it look even better with a combination of practical effects and digital ones, and I think it helps the actors too, because they have something to play off of. It's not just a tennis ball on a pole, and it creates a reality for the audience that is.
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time like in the world of movie like discussion talking about the evolution of CG, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about the evolution of practical effects. And there's been as much innovation and trailblazing in practical effects as there has been in CG, and so the practical work is getting to be so much more sophisticated and so much more skilled in ways that I think people don't quite realize. If you have we have this dragonborn in the movie that Legacy designed for us, and we had an incredible drawing of what we wanted the dragonborn to look like, taken directly from the lore, and then how do you make that real? And the amount of sophistication that goes into the prosthetic now is so different than prosthetics in the 80s when it was a mask. And like there's a guy in a mask and maybe there's a puppeteer moving a jaw or something to make it a little more real. And now it's like being driven by motion capture. So all like the digital technology is behind the scenes of the practical work. And so the practical work is evolved in such a way. And so the whole endeavor gets to be, the craft gets to be cooler and cooler and cooler. And it's really fun to watch the evolution. I mean, it happened on the Iron Man suit, like the original Iron Man suits. Like when we put Downey in the first Iron Man suit in Long Beach in 2006-7, he had to lay on the ground and a guy would screw him into the suit, like Allen wrench by Allen wrench, all the way up and down his legs, all the way up and down his armpits. He had 1,000 little Allen wrenches screwing him in. And then he had to pee, and then an hour to get him out of it. And then by the end, you know, it was all magnets hidden inside of it. And the 3D printing and everything had changed. And all those innovations are like, now we're getting to use all the innovative stuff. And it's amazing.
Visiting Legacy, when we first started, Legacy is the company that built all these practical effects. It was one of my favorite days working on this film, because it's like going to a playground, because you can see how they're utilizing these innovations in technology into the simplicity or visual simplicity of practical effects. Like he was talking about motion capture. There was a puppeteer that was saying the lines, making facial expressions that a camera was capturing and then translating those facial expressions to the servos in the face of the Dragonborn that was worn by another puppeteer. I mean, some of the most incredible stuff that you could ever imagine that we could have just gone fully CG with. Now, this is not to take away from the incredible work that our visual effects vendors at MPC and ILM did. Some of the stuff they did is also equally innovative, because this is a technology that's also evolving and growing. The key was to find a perfect hybrid of these two technologies, in the same way that Spielberg did with Jurassic Park, which we keep saying is like one of the things we kept drawing inspiration from, how he was able to so seamlessly combine these two separate worlds and make it all feel integrated. That was something that was really important to us, and to the credit of the studios that financed and helped make this film. They let us do that, and that's something that you don't often find in movies these days. So it was really liberating, but also incredibly challenging.
Chaps, how was the just going back? I'm curious as to how you transitioned from writing duo to directing, and had you directed much before together, or how did you know that was going to translate as effectively as your writing partnership?
We both had ambitions to be directors as kids. I mean, I had the camera from the school library, and I would shoot these silly little films during my lunch period. John made films as a kid as well.
I was 8 years old making plays and short films in my basement.
We always sort of try that we do what the rule they tell you as a screenwriter is, don't try to direct from the page, but we always did, because the only way we know how to write is to see the movie unfolding as we're writing it. And so that just naturally lends itself to wanting to get behind the camera. We had the good fortune of seeing some of our scripts turned into features. In some cases, we loved the results. In other cases, we felt like, they weren't quite the way we would have done it. And
were you on set a lot at that time as well?
We were on the set. Yes. Every moment we could be on the set, every director who would tolerate having the writers there, we were there.
But it was very often that sort of stereotypical thing of us pushing up our glass and being, excuse, if I may, and they're like, yeah, go back to your the writer tent. But it's a frustrating thing as a writer, but also equally exciting, because you get to see this thing come to life, not quite in the way that you imagine, but sometimes better than you imagine.
And so we had formed a relationship with the people at New Line, because we had done a number of movies with them. They knew that we wanted to direct, and we wrote this movie Vacation, and they asked us, "Do you want to direct it?" Jumped at the chance to do it. And
did you write it with a mind to direct it, or were you is it another writing gig?
I don't know. I don't know if we were intending to direct it at the time, but we wrote it, and when they gave us the opportunity, we knew we had to take it, because it was our way into directing. And our focus was on the funny. It was really just to make something that felt true to the original franchise and made people laugh. And then when we did Game Night, we knew we had to level up in a way and make something that we felt like was visually different, and kind of changing the mold on it sounds super ambitious and annoying, but like sort of changing the mold on how comedies are perceived. And so we really wanted it to feel like a thriller, look like a thriller, sound like a thriller, with the music from Cliff Martinez and the cinematography. And it was always a challenge, because we worried that maybe people would not laugh if it looks scary and intense, but in fact, it actually bolstered the comedy because it raised the stakes and made us invest in the characters that much more and understand that, oh, these people could die at any moment. And when you understand those stakes, I think it actually makes things funnier.
I feel like I called you guys that night when I walked out of the theater, or maybe I just shot a text or an email to you. But I remember seeing Game Night in Canada. I was up making a film, and my wife and I went to the cinema, and I just had the greatest time. And I was so excited for you guys when I saw that movie, because I was like, you've just unlocked the level. Like, it's like the key's been switched.
Yeah,
you guys are going to be able to go make a really, really big fun movie somewhere and get to play with all the toys and all the things, because I saw it. I was like, that's it. Like, this is your, now we're in business, boys. I mean, there's great looking film, and it's really got heart.
Thank you. No, I think, like John said, I mean, something sort of happened in the early 2000s with film comedy where it became a lot about improvisation. And some of the funniest movies at that time were a function of that, actors finding things in the moment. And there is great comedy that comes from that. But what it does from a filmmaking standpoint is it limits you visually. You can't really plan your shots too much if you don't know exactly what the actors are going to say and do. And so we decided to be a little more rigid with the script and really plan the hell out of how the coverage was going to go.
It was an experiment in a way to strictly adhere to the look and vision of the film. And because we had such an incredible cast that we're able to find the funny even in less inviting comedic circumstances, it came together in a way that we were really proud of.
It also taught us, or made us more confident in the notion that things can be funny even if you shoot them in a way that they're not traditionally shot, because it's manipulating the audience's expectations. One of the things we did in Game Night was when Jesse Plemons is on screen as the weird neighbor Gary, the camera is always slowly dollying in, a la Jeremy Latcham's early career, because there's a visual language that the audiences have learned over the years of watching movies, that if the camera's dollying, something ominous is happening, something meaningful is happening, but nothing of that nature was happening in that scene. So
it's just talking about Frito-Lay.
Yeah, it's super unsettling.
There's an era, wasn't there, like SNL for years. It was always the two-shot comedy, wasn't it? It always felt like in the 80s and early 90s, or even later, you either had a film that'd be a visual feast, or if it was comedy, you knew going in it was going to be a limited.
That's right.
Then you knew it wouldn't look great, and so that was the challenge. And honestly, it allowed us to explore that cinematic approach with this film. We knew that we could have as much humor in it as we wanted without sacrificing the look, because we wanted this to be the most beautiful movie we've ever made. Each movie we make, we want to make it better than the last. And so that was what we set out to do. And because now we had a much bigger toolbox and this incredible cast of characters, it really allowed us to push the limits of our own imagination, which was incredibly gratifying.
And I also think that genre has changed a bit, and right now there's not as many comedies in theaters that are performing for people. There's not the big screen Meet the Fockers and Austin Powers, like the era of the huge comedy blockbuster is not
Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents. Yeah, I forgot the name of it.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? The era of that big comedy blockbuster has kind of changed. And I feel like now it is inherent on these movies, these big spectacle, action films, to actually be the conduit to comedies. And I think if you look at over the years, a lot of times the funniest movie of the year is one of these big Marvel films, which is just full of action and everything else, but legitimately funny. And so the thing that I'm always looking for in filmmakers that I want to work with are people that can do all the big stuff. And there's a way to learn and how to do all the big stuff. And that's very manageable, but that can actually bring the comedy and the heart to it, because I think that the notion of the director as, stuntman becomes second unit director, becomes director, or, slick commercial directors. I think that's
careful
changing a little bit. I think that the thing that's happening.
No, keep going. It's good.
We want, I think as an audience, we want more out of these movies. We want a fuller experience out of these particular kinds of films than maybe a cinematographer turned directors kind of bring to it. There's a different thing there that's what I just
he's gonna say every job turned directors to protect
yeah.
Where
is Daredevil. I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated. We're gonna take this city back. Over-medicated. In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50, so you can get your gym gains on, or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Before we all shoot ourselves in the feet, you have set up my next question quite nicely there, Jeremy, which is, obviously this is a film that kind of refuses to be pigeonholed into anything. Right. It's part comedy, it's part high fantasy epic and everything. Yeah. But when it comes out and when the audiences come out of the theater, what do you want them to feel the film has been? Were you aiming to be a comedy with high fantasy elements? Like, what do you think is the forefront genre of the film?
I want them to come out buzzing. I want them to come out feeling like they experienced something special. And this is a very ambitious statement, but we screened it. We did a friends and family screening recently for people who had no idea what to expect. And it was like that perfect reaction, and they were coming out, and like it really, like what we tried to do is deliver on every emotion. We wanted to make people cry. We wanted to make people laugh and be scared and be excited and on the edge of their seat. And what Dungeons and Dragons, what is so unique to Dungeons and Dragons is that that's what you want to feel in a perfect campaign as well. So it did feel like that perfect blend of all of those things.
The films that really make an impression on me are the ones that aren't like anything I've seen before.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe we've done something that isn't quite like anything else. I mean, there's no perfect analog for it. Princess Bride in a way, but like to make an epic fantasy movie that makes you laugh out loud, it has actually made people cry in some screenings. I mean, to do that is really the goal and was from the beginning. And hopefully we've achieved that.
Yeah, and I think just thematically, to me, the found family, like that's a theme that I always want to go back to. This notion that the world's kind of a messed up place, and your relationship with your family and your parents or whatever it is, and your extended family is what it is. And then like people go out in the world, they find this family that they build that becomes their people, and they walk away. And I think that's kind of what makes the going to the movies. I think that's what you're always looking for, is that reassurance that like you can find your people, like you can find your way in the world, and it's scary and weird, and you can find your tribe of folks that are going to be there for you. And it's like, I don't know, it's like a very simplistic kind of view of these movies, but I think that's what they're kind of for. Yeah. And I think this movie does a really good job of that. Like I look at it and I go, yeah, they found each other, and I want to be with them. I want to watch them.
And as screenwriters too, I mean, I think it was really important to us to avoid tropes as much as we could, to walk people down the path of the trope that they think it's going to be, and then pull the rug out from under them. It's what we tried to do with Game Night. I think we were using the familiar tropes of comedies and thrillers to trick people into thinking that it was going to be one thing, and then hit them over the head with something else. And that's kind of what we were setting out to do here as well.
You guys are really great at turning scenes in ways that you don't expect. I mean, like my favorite scene in Spider-Man Homecoming, that was, I think, the only scene in the movie that was from the very, very first draft that like verbatim never ever changed, was the scene in the car with Keaton and Peter. It was just so like, you read it, you're like, this is perfect. This scene will never change. Do not change this scene.
Yeah, I remember as we were writing it, we were like jumping up and down.
Is this the one where, I mean, spoilers for those people who haven't somehow seen Spider-Man Homecoming yet, this is the one where it's Michael Keaton's character has figured out who Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It's pretty much the implied threat. Well,
that's right. Threat, without giving it away to his daughter. who we reveal was connected to, was the sort of connecting force between Spider-Man and his biggest foe in that film.
It's our homage to Hitchcock in a lot of ways, because there's some scenes.
I will agree with Jeremy there. That scene is absolutely fantastic. It's definitely one of the scenes that makes the film.
It's just great. And these guys just have this way of their writing of doing these things and taking you on this journey in middle of what should be this like light, fun John Hughes comedy, and then there's like a truly menacing scene right in the middle of it, and you're like, how the hell did this happen? Like what is happening here?
It's really hard.
It's fun.
It's really hard, especially with like in this film to kind of bridge the gap between making people cry and then making people laugh and then making people cry again. But it is the best challenge.
Yeah, I always love this Hitchcock quote about play the audience like a piano. And once you have them hooked into the characters, you can sort of manipulate them in a good way and take them where they don't know they're going. And then they find themselves there and they're surprised.
I mean, the most fun thing in every screening, and it was the most consistent thing as well when we were test screening it for audiences. Because of COVID, we were often not able to actually be there, so we were just watching on this live feed of these people. All their eyes were glowing from the infrared cameras. But the perfect way to see a movie.
It's very surreal.
But what was very consistent was that you could always see when the audience got on board with the film. Because it starts off, you have no idea what to expect. It's called Dungeons and Dragons, so you're probably expecting one thing, and it takes a minute for people to find their footing with the characters and the story. And there's always that turning point about 10 to 15 minutes into the film where you suddenly see people kind of locking in and getting more engaged. And that was always really fun, because that's when we knew we had them. That's when we knew that everything that came after that was going to work, because it takes a second to lay that groundwork. And you have to be confident that even if it doesn't feel like they're connecting at first, it's all in an effort to kind of ease them into what is hopefully so unique about this movie.
One thing that's kind of worth talking about people might not know how that process works, but it's really surreal, because you're showing the movie to people that don't know what movie they're seeing. They've gotten an invite to a film, and they're being said, come to a mall in Paramus, New Jersey on Tuesday at 7 p.m. And if you've liked this list of 10 films, there's something you should come see. And so they have no idea what movie they're walking into. They have no context. They've seen no marketing. They've not seen a trailer to set an expectation. So you're really like walking up, putting a movie on a screen for 500 people that have no idea what they're walking into.
And by the way, as a filmmaker doing that, it's the most terrifying. It's the most terrifying part of this whole process. It wasn't the most grueling day of shooting. It was those days that we were screening it for a test audience, because it's that come to Jesus moment where you realize if the movie works or it doesn't. And we've been, and as having been in this business for a long time, like we've experienced both sides of that.
Yeah, and it's just a wild ride, because like you can convince yourself that something's working and that this makes sense, and we all have like intellectualize decisions that we're all making collectively in the editing room or whatever. We're like, that, and you watch it, you can't hide from the fact that nobody laughed or moved or reacted or whatever it was to something that you're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter whose idea it was.
Problem with Paramus.
It's not us. It's Paramus.
With that in mind, though, you've also got a few hurdles to jump as well, in terms of, I think, a huge part of your audience are going to be like, they've already excluded it. How did you approach that?
Well, I think we tried to approach it because, as I played it before, certainly as a kid, but would I run out to see a Dungeons and Dragons movie? Not necessarily. So I had to get over my own hurdle. I had to figure out, how do we make this enticing to an audience that wouldn't normally go to a fantasy film and who has never played the game? And again, that started with characters and a story that could work in modern day, that would be relatable to anyone, really. And it was that threading that genre needle that was crucial for me. Because I want this to be a movie that my mom wants to see, and she doesn't like much of my work.
On the flip side of that, what was it like being handed something with that much history and that many people who've kind of contributed to it?
think too much about it when you're making it, because in the same way that when we set out to do Spider-Man Homecoming, there is such a legacy behind that. If you think too much about it, it will paralyze you. Exactly. So honestly, like we set out to make the movie we wanted to make. And then I think because we had all of these conversations leading up to it, the Wizards of the Coast in Seattle, and my familiarity with the game and my love for the game, I think it came naturally to make it kind of a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons without us setting out to make a love letter, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think the thing you have to do when you're handed something that people love this much is, the thing Kevin Feige always said to me, and it's resonated with me and sticks with me all the time, is just like the notion that like we're the custodians right now. It's been here before us, it'll be here after us, and in this moment we're the people who have been charged with protecting it, and our job is to leave it better than we found it, and to not inherently like change what it is, and to make it the best version of itself. And so you have to like take it and like it's like this brutal responsibility, because like people have spent their life and their childhood and their adulthood playing and loving and caring about this world. And so you have to take the time to understand it, to dig into it, to like really think about what it is and what makes it work for people, and then try to translate that out for a broader audience. And I think honestly, like I am not like the world's biggest, I didn't come to Marvel knowing the Marvel stuff. I didn't come to this knowing everything about this. What I love is movies. Like I am a movie guy. I love films. And so my job is always to try to figure out like, how do you make the film of this accessible to everybody? But I think if you treat it with respect and like really love and dive in and are like reverence for what makes it work, and understanding the source material and understanding why people love it, people want to see the thing they love represented on the big screen. That is a dream of people, to see the thing that they love, the thing that they've spent their time and their money over the years like playing and diving into, and they want to see that up on the big screen and treated well. And so hopefully we do that, and they feel that it was well looked after, that we were good custodians of this brand.
Fortunately, it's a very accessible game as well. Like when you're playing D&D, like, obviously there's some rules that take remembering, but beyond that, it's an incredibly inclusive game. And so it kind of stands to reason that the movie itself can be inclusive as well if we're doing it right.
Guys, I was going to ask you, what's next?
Honestly, we don't know. We would love to keep this thing going, but we're also not. We're superstitious, so we don't want to count too much on it. We're hoping that it has the splash and the reaction that we want, but are also, like in any D&D campaign, willing to pivot if we have to.
Should we be expecting to see more of the Daley, Goldstein, Latcham trio in future films, do you think?
God, I hope so.
Me too. I hope so. I think we work really well together. I think it's such an intimate thing making a movie. You spend so much time together with your whole life just becomes the film. And so it's nice to do it with people that you really enjoy being with. No, but I hope so. I certainly hope so. I certainly think we work well together. It's fun, it's fun.
And Jeremy, what about yourself, buddy? What's coming up for you?
Look, at the moment, my schedule consists of this movie coming out and us and making sure that we put it out there in the right way and give it, a chance to find an audience, and making sure that we share it with the world in the right way. And I'm not thinking about really anything yet besides this, and then hopefully a vacation.
That's needed vacation.
I think we all.
How long have you guys spent making this?
17 years.
Longer than you've been alive, Huw.
Touche.
Pre-pandemic, so almost 4 years.
And were you shooting through the pandemic, or do you routes?
Yeah. We were shooting through the pandemic. Yep. And
was it? Did it hit? At what point did the pandemic hit? Were you
before we started?
We went to Ireland.
So basically, we were doing soft prep in an office in Paramount, and then we were told, oh, you can't go to the office anymore, and so we went home. There was that couple weeks of uncertainty, those couple weeks of like, oh, it'll be okay in a couple weeks, and then that reality sort of sank in. We went back to work and started
continuing on.
I remember a moment early in the process where we all hadn't seen each other in person, and we've all been working on the movie now for a month or so. And our our executive producer Dennis Stewart and Jonathan and John and myself all met in Jonathan's front yard on lawn chairs that we had spread out across the yard, and we had this like first meeting about the movie together in person, and it was just really surreal because we're sitting in LA like in lawn chairs, 25 feet away from each other. I think you didn't take the lawn chairs back inside.
It was like wiping down packaged frozen meat. I remember, like I was the wiper in the assembly line of de-COVIDifying things.
When we went to Belfast to start, remember we had the biggest conference room table in the world with like 6 people at it. We had to yell to each other.
with those plexiglass barriers, and we were yelling through our masks and our face shields. And I mean, it takes some of the spontaneity out of it because you have to prep a lot more. And it also was difficult in just getting, rehearsals going. Everyone had to quarantine for 10 days before they were even able to leave their hotel room to work. And so often we'd be having these meetings while we were quarantining, while the special effects guys and legacy guys were building these creatures that we weren't even able to see in person until they were out of their quarantine. And the fight coordination was really tough because you didn't have the time that you, by the way, a testament to our stunt team and Brad for just like being able to work with that and roll with the punches.
I mean, we even our table read, we had a table read when the cast first got out of quarantine. And we had to have it in this conference room. And normally you'd have a table read, and you're around like a table. That's why it's called a table read. But we were in a ballroom, like spread out, this giant conference room spread out, all 15 feet away from each other, and kind of yelling. The actors are kind of yelling the lines out, and it was just not intimate in the least. And so you're watching it, and the movie, you hear the movie for the first time coming from the actors, and everyone's making notes in their scripts and making sure everything feels right. And it's so hard to tell because everyone's just like, I love you. It's like everyone's like so spread out.
I love that Jeremy's sample dialogue is,
I love you. I love you.
That's what you've put together. All right. Should we wrap up there, CJ?
We'll wrap. Yeah. Thanks, chaps. You've been legends. So
I'm really looking forward to seeing the film. It's really good to hear that you guys put so much love into making a good film as well as a D&D film.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoy it when you see it.
And enjoy it, I very much shall. I will most definitely have my bum in a seat in the cinema when the D&D movie comes out this Friday. I hope you will too. Everything we have heard about it says that it is a great adventure film that takes all the best parts of that experience those lovely, lovely gentlemen have and puts it into one fantastic film. Once again, that was John Francis Daley, Jonathan Goldstein and Jeremy Latcham. Thank you very much to that trio of amazing filmmakers. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to them. Next week on the Filmmakers Podcast, we are bringing in some of the best of British with Alleluia director Richard Eyre. Actually, no, let's give him his proper nomenclature, Sir Richard Eyre, as he chats with Giles and the Butler Hart about how he put together a team of classic British acting talent for his adaptation of Alan Bennett's play. This has been the Filmmakers Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to keep up to date with the latest happenings on the show, you can find us on all of the various social medias at FilmmakersPod. And if you want to get in touch with us, whether you want to ask us a question for the next Business of Film, whether you want to comment on the episodes, or whether you just want to tell us we're amazing, you can always reach us at thefilmmakerspodcast@gmail.com. And of course, if you'd like to support the future development of the show, we do have a Patreon page. Check out the show notes below for how you could contribute to the future of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you next week.